Throughout the 20th century, there was no shortage of self-proclaimed royalty. Men in rented regalia, secret heirs to vanished empires. The century was full of them. Some sincere, some delusional, some outright fraudulent. And in the middle of all of that, a man named Abbe De Vere entered that same arena, using the same themes of lineage and myth, but instead of inflating fantasy, which so many were doing and still are, he attempted to ground it. Instead of pointing to supernatural races or distant alien origins, he suggested something far more unsettling. What if they were a lot more human? What if dragons symbolized real dynasties? What if fairy lore originally concealed actual caste systems? What if mythology wasn't fantasy at all, but human memory? And now, 13 years after his passing, the work has continued. My guest today is Abbe De Vere. Abbe is an author and independent researcher who has spent the last decade refining and expanding that legacy in her own voice. In August, she released a book called Inbred Britain, a deeply researched work that examines the roots of British nobility, not just through genealogy, but as a living structure shaped by bloodlines, symbolism, and cultural memory. The book explores how tightly interwoven aristocratic families really are, and how power has preserved itself across centuries, possibly far longer. Today we're going to tackle all of this. We're going to talk about how history becomes myth, about whether that transformation was natural or intentional, and maybe most importantly, what this all means for the rest of us. Welcome back to the Deep Share. Abbe De Vere, welcome to the Deep Share podcast. So good to have you here with me.
Hello, Andy. It's nice to see you again.
Yeah, we've been talking and chatting and trying to get this together for a while. We're finally doing it. And we've been, just to give a little bit of background, I basically invaded Abby's life digitally as thoroughly as I could a few years ago because, there's not too many sources to discuss these sorts of topics. And, your father was a huge influence on me. His writings really grabbed me and took me places I didn't expect my mind to go. And of course, your books now are doing the same and more. And I really congratulate you on all the success you've had over the past few months, putting out all these books, re-releasing The Dragon Legacy, putting out Inbred Britain. These are excellent accomplishments.
I've got 4 books at the moment under Dragon Publishing, and I'm writing a few more. I've had a bit of a break this week.
That's good.
I'm building my farm. But 4 books. We've got the Dragon Legacy, which has just been re-released for the honour of my father. Then we've got Royal Dragon Court, Inbred Britain, A Story of 1,000 Faces, and the original manuscript Transylvania to Tunbridge Wells. But I think it was me that infiltrated your life, Andy. I saw the Realm of the Ring Lords, and did I not come on and start going, that's not right?
Yes. Yeah, because I had originally been in touch with a relative or a family member of Lawrence Gardner, because I was originally obsessed with his Realm of the Ring Lords, and I was even about to do a big series on my show and everything. I had started when I found your dad's work and the similarities. And of course, I think I found your dad's name through Lawrence Gardner, of course, but that's a whole can of worms.
Well, that's the thing. The Realm of the Ring Lords is actually Transylvania to Tunbridge Wells, the Dragon Legacy. So,
right.
Yeah.
And that's why you so I was just after anyone that I could talk to about these things, and there were few and far between. And most content creators that got anywhere near this stuff were talking about literal flying reptile, fire-breathing dragons.
They love a bit of fantasy, don't they?
Oh, the fantasy runs wild. People claiming that Tolkien fans are just thinking Lord of the Rings is real. It's like, no. Tolkien was a 3-time Anglo-Saxon professor.
Yeah.
The dude knew his shit and put it in all his stories. But anyway, back to this, that basically I started messaging Abby, just looking for someone to talk to, possibly interview. And at the time, you were completely against it, didn't
Mm.
want anything to do with podcasting or anything, but you were hard at work doing all this research and putting this legacy back together, basically. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about how you got into this work, because originally, I remember you telling me you were a rebellious teenager. You didn't really want to
Yeah.
buy into everything your dad laid forward.
Yeah.
So how did you get into it?
Um, well, my dad, back in 2009, we had an on off kind of. I'd see him and then I wouldn't see him. But when I did see him, we'd go up to Wales and he would tell us about our genealogy and who we were. And I didn't really believe him with certain aspects of it. When he tells you that you're a royal and you're a princess and all of this, you don't believe him. You run away from it. But we got back in contact around about 2009, and my main job was DMC takedowns, copyright infringement. So I think there was a website called Coda or something back in the day, and I would just be a keyboard warrior doing all of that and staying behind the scenes. And it wasn't long after that dad actually died, and back in 2013 he died.
Mhm.
And I was the only sibling that was willing to take on the books. But I didn't really take them on. I had to just kind of stand back and watch the circus. It was awful. The amount of stalkers that I would get. It's funny. The amount of
Mm.
stalkers that I got, and people kind of thinking that they knew me, and I didn't know who the hell they were. So it was around about 2016, 17, 18 that I really started promoting dad's books. I wanted to make some money out of them. I wanted to get it was my inheritance, so I wanted to make some money out of it. So I put the website up in 2018. At the same time, I was doing a law degree. Decided to go and do copyright law because my father told me to do that when I was younger. And it's just really taken off since then, working alongside the old publisher Paul Tithe from the Book Tree back then, and just doing the best that I could to promote it. And it was then that I got in contact with Robert Sepper, and had a little bit of a chin wag and a collaboration. I sent him some books, and I gave him free reign to use whatever he wanted to use. And with that, he's really helped take it off and get it into the internet and into the mainstream, really.
Yeah, big cheers to Robert Sepper. He
Yeah.
does a lot of, the most dangerous anthropologist, right? He
Yeah,
uh, he
bless
does a lot
him.
of great work, and some
I
people
think
find
he's a
him
dragon.
too
I
flagrant.
personally think he's a dragon. I think he's of the bloodline.
Well, very well could be. He shares his DNA results quite often, and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, he's done a lot of work for this small little corner of alternative thinking,
Yeah.
and it
I
is a
think he
small
has a vested
corner.
interest in it though as well.
Hmm.
Recently he's doing things about his DNA and putting out information like that. So I think we're all interested in it, aren't we? Who are we? Where do we come from?
Yep.
Why
It
are
seems
we
to
the way
be
that we are?
one of the main things that's systematically taken away from us, or at least the attempt is always there to either bury or obscure, mostly obscure, it seems.
Hmm.
They know that the truth lingers around no matter what they do. So they
There's a
have
level of
to,
ignorance, though, isn't there? You can go around life like a headless robot,
oh, for
just
sure.
mundanely getting on with life and going out working, and you forget who are you, what is your purpose in life, what are you here for? And then when you get
Easily.
to the grassroots of it, I mean, for me, I became very grounded knowing that sort of street names are named after our family members, and I can speak to people all over the world. I've got people in Russia that are talking to me, and I know that I'm related to them through the Russian kings. My daughter's in Budapest at the moment, and she's
Oh, that's
just
awesome.
taking photos wherever she goes. And I'm looking it up, and I'm like, that's your 26th grandfather. She hasn't got a clue. She doesn't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. So yeah, how were you fascinated by genealogy first, or was it when you kind of started looking at your dad's work and were you inspired by it that way?
I was inspired, but then I wanted to know the truth. Of saying a truth seeker is probably quite a horrible thing to say nowadays online, isn't it? I'm a truth seeker.
It's a pretty
I'm not
broad
that.
association, unfortunately. Same with tinfoil
Unfortunately, with
hatter or
certain
conspiracy
people.
theorist,
I really
conspiracy
wanted to know
realist.
the truth. And for me, it was really important whether my dad was right, whether he was wrong, whether, bits that he was wrong about that maybe I could help him out. And he used to say to me, you'd never be able to help me, Abby. And I said, I will. I'll help you as much as I possibly can.
Hmm.
And when he did a clairvoyance, spiritual psychic reading on me one time, and yeah, he said, you're never going to be able to help me. And I'm like, oh no, I will. I'll do my best, Dad. Because it was in a pickle, you see. The book was in such a pickle. It wasn't, when it was Transylvania to Tunbridge Wells, there wasn't any flow. And then there was arguments with Lawrence Gardner. And at that
Hmm.
point, I think it was around about in the early 2000s when he said this to me. Um, he was in such a kerfuffle about it. He didn't know any way out of it at that time. But yeah, I became very interested in genealogy myself, and myself and a couple of cousins. I had a auntie or cousin Wilma and Edna up in Scotland, and then my cousin Stephen Jacobs down in Norfolk. And Stephen was doing my granddad's side, and Edna was doing the McDonald's side and the Scottish side. So it was
Hmm.
a fantastic collaboration. And I didn't really get anywhere until around about 2020 when I found Robert the Bruce, and I was like, "Oh my God, he was actually right!" But the thing is, Dad never said that we were related to Robert the Bruce. It was all very, you know, he never wasn't specific. He said, "Oh, you're just related to the De Veres." He never said you're related to. He said that we were related to William and Harry, but he never pinpointed anything to us. It was all very much a little puzzle, and that you'd have to go and figure it out. And then when I was able to figure it out myself, that meant more to me because I didn't want to use any of Dad's work. I didn't want to go and copy his genealogy. So
Hmm.
to be able to come to these discoveries myself, it actually cements all of the information that my dad hasn't put in the books. And it just, especially when I was writing my own book, Inbred Britain, I was able to go through the MacDonald line, and MacDonalds are one of the biggest clans in Scotland. And then I was able to get to the Glens, the Sinclairs, the Stewarts, and the story of Robert the Bruce with the Douglases, the Logans, the Grants. All of my family were present around that time, and Robert the Bruce, obviously, being my grandfather as well. I'm all related to all of them. All of them were my grandfathers, and for them to all be friends at the time within that battle scenario, and then I think it was it William or James Douglas who carried his heart. They all went with him to try and carry his heart. I don't think they got to Jerusalem, but it's a
Right.
fantastic story, and for me it's like wow. So if I'm related to these people, how many more people are related to the same people?
Right. Yeah, this isn't so I mentioned it in the intro as well. It's like we came from I remember growing up in the 90s and there was quite a few charlatans out there, all claiming royalty and connections to sacred lineages and stuff like that. And I could look back, who knows, maybe some of them would be, justifiable now. I don't
Mm,
know. But this was mainstream coverage and stuff like that. I remember seeing a lot of that going on when I was younger, but for your work independently to verify a lot of what your father was saying is pretty impressive, especially considering some of the things that he was connecting from
Mm.
these European kings back much further than that, all the way into antiquity. And I think that's probably what made his work controversial.
Yeah.
But of course, it led to a lot of good and bad because you have, like we talked about, a lot of people talking about literal dragons
Yeah,
instead of
they don't quite
what.
get it, do they? And
Right. Well, that's what
yeah,
Jesus says, right? You
the
speak in
dragon's
parables.
always been a symbol of royalty
Hmm.
and a guardianship and knowing, clear sight, and that's where it comes from. It comes from the Greek word drakon, and
Hmm.
it's the eyes, the piercing eyes, or the eyes that see clearly. That's where the etymology of it comes from, and that's just something that in with us it's like this intuition that we have. I can see straight through you. I know exactly what your motivation is, and that's one of the things Dad used to say to me. He used to say, just be careful, everybody has a motivation, Abby. He said,
Oh yeah.
you'll know, you will know, but some people don't know, and some people are very vulnerable or can be manipulated. But I'm like, I used to be on a 3 strike system. Give people 3 strikes and they're out. Now it's 1 strike. If I see it, I can't unsee it. I know you're a bit of a baddie.
Yeah.
You don't get in, sort of thing, you know. Uh,
Right.
so yeah, it's all about seeing clearly, having those extra spiritual gifts, and then the other traits that come with the bloodline, like
Mhm.
the red hair, born with red hair, and sometimes people have green eyes, and yeah, there's lots of things about psychic abilities that we
Mm.
carry.
That's pretty it's pretty interesting that it's been hijacked so thoroughly by new age ideologies over the years. And I know your father was extremely adamant that his work and what he was suggesting about reality, about history, about the human race was nothing like what the new age presents.
Yeah, he
And he had a
hated
lot to
New
say
Age.
about that.
Yeah. In the first chapter of his book, New Age Critique, he specifically outlines the type of people that he doesn't think that the book is going to, that they're not going to like it. And it's just
Hmm.
really funny that those sorts of people have jumped on the bandwagon and started up the draconic pathway, draconic spiritual pathway groups. And
Hmm.
yeah, everyone's claiming themselves to be the leader of the draconic pathway, and it's just and people that come to you and say that, what I've had a few lately, that they're reincarnated, they're a De Vere reincarnate, but they don't have the lineage, or my dad came to them in a dream and
Oh,
that's why they're there, but I haven't done my genealogy. And it's just like, you can give them a chance, but then when you start seeing through it, it's just like you can't make their lies come true for them. And it's
right.
it's really difficult, because then I'll get trolled
Oh,
if
right. I
I
know.
don't give them the answers that they like. Yeah, I get trolled, and yeah.
That's why
Comes
I
with the territory, I
completely,
guess.
that's why I was so sympathetic and I completely understood where you were coming from when I was like, hey, I'm a podcaster. Can I talk to you about this stuff? And you were like, oh, God. Because I mean, looking around at the I guess you could call it community, but the population of free thinkers, truthers, conspiracy theorists, it all seems, not all, but there seems to be a majority there versus a minority.
Mm,
I think the minority of us that are still asking questions have a lot of open-endedness to the ideas that we put forward, where the majority, just like in the normal world, in the mainstream,
yeah.
the majority are asleep, right? We would
Well, they're
call them
heavily
sheep or this or
indoctrinated,
that.
aren't they? This is the
But aren't
problem.
aren't we as well in the alternative community? There's a large portion of
No, this is what I'm
indoctrination there
saying.
as
The
well.
people
Oh,
that
okay.
think that, well, we've got the people that are obviously indoctrinated by the
Right.
church and whatnot, and have
Yes.
work, 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 be a slave, make money, taxes. But then the people that think that they are free thinkers or truth seekers or whatever, um, oh, that we're descended from aliens.
Mm,
They've been indoctrinated, and each path, so to speak, has its own level of indoctrination that they can't see out of it. So I think this is what we always try and promote, is to critically think about everything. And me doing a law degree, I look at everything as facts based evidence, and not to be black and white, but if there's no citations or nothing else to back it up, then how am I to know? Why would I believe you?
right.
Why don't you just go out and seek your own truth and find out, research for yourself, and then you can find out. And I think I have been quite lucky that I do have, and it is a community of people around me who do share the same bloodlines. And a lot of them do come to me, and I do their genealogy for them, or we attach each other to our trees and stuff. And the people that I have around me, they are always thinking critically. They always go out and research for themselves, and a lot of them are authors. A lot of them really do have their heads on their shoulders, and it's a blessing. In a way, they're kind of like a family to me as well, because my
Hmm.
mum's dead, my dad's dead, I don't have any siblings around me. There's been times when, if I'm on my own, if all I have to do is phone up one of my family members, part of the Dragons, and then
Right.
I kind of feel grounded and back at home, even though they're all the way over in America. It still gives me that family stability.
That's great. And it
Yeah,
is pretty amazing that it stretches all over the world as well.
yeah.
That's something that I was going to say earlier is a little bit different about not just the Dragon Legacy, but Inbred Britain and what you're putting forward now. Not only does your book have like over 400 scientific citations and references, but it's also doing something different compared to those old, oh, I'm part of royalty kind
Mm.
of narratives that were going out there. You're suggesting that we're all connected in a certain way and that pretty much all of the modern world is owed to an older
Dad's
culture
probably
of
going to hate
humans
me
that
for
we've been
that.
forgotten. What's that?
Dad's probably going to hate me for that. In some contexts, Dad's books are elitist, and they
Fair
do
enough. Yeah.
say, they do say that there's only certain people of this dragon bloodline,
Right.
and only certain ones have these certain abilities. I do agree with that. But at the same time, I think for myself, from the research that I've done, that we are actually all related. But it's only to say something is of a pure bloodline is a very difficult word, because if we all are of the most purest bloodline, then we'd still be knuckle dragging Neanderthals.
Hmm.
Um, but the people say, like the Rothschilds and the people that stick within their own lines, I would say that they're the ones that have possibly got these gifts. Not necessarily. I'm just saying Rothschild as that sort of family that stick within
Absolutely.
those lines would continue those certain special traits and spiritual gifts.
Hmm.
And this is why it's called Inbred Britain, because when you look at the family trees of all of these royals, they didn't go and marry a peasant or a pauper. They all married within the bloodline. They all married within money and power, to keep that wealth, to maintain the wealth going down the bloodline to today.
Hmm.
So yeah, I do think that we are all related to each other, but then I think that we probably were a hive mind, that we had telepathy, and there's certain gifts like that have been watered down, that we don't necessarily have anymore.
That makes sense. I mean, it's been thousands of years as this has been suppressed, not only by, probably political climates and kingdoms rising and falling, but catastrophes that have happened. Following mentioning Robert Sepper, he has a new video out and he's talked multiple times about how catastrophes most likely sent a lot of us into caves
Yeah.
and we emerged probably much different looking and scared the shit out of the rest of the human population that was just picking itself back up from being
Mm.
left out on the surface during whatever happened. And yeah, it does seem like instead of framing it as like elitist, it's very it's more important to frame it as terrestrial. And I think that's kind of what I'm always getting at, is that just like any religious faith, a lot of the quote unquote truth seekers are kind of globbing on to these same kind of ideologies where we came from gods or aliens
Yeah.
or things like that. And if we trace lineages that are known, as you've been doing through
Yeah.
genealogy, it can become more apparent that we have a much older human history and it's
Yeah,
much
I was
richer than we've
watching
been
this
told.
thing the other day, and when we last spoke, and in my books, I've written about Homo hybrid. I can't say this. Homo
Hybrid.
hybridensis. Have you been practicing it?
I've been trying.
And Homo floresiensis. Now, Homo floresiensis were the little midget people like me. I'm 4'10".
Like
They were a
hobbits.
lot smaller, the Hobbit people, and
Right.
Homo hybrid. I can't say it. Giant
That,
people, right? They dated it back to 700,000 years ago. But now they're coming out with new information. This is literally, it's so groundbreaking because there's always new information coming out of we were probably the Homo erectus and all of that are probably around a million years old.
at least. And
Yeah,
it's funny because that's what a lot of our northern myths tell us. If we look into the Northern Edda or the sagas from
yeah,
Scandinavia, all these stories are kind of telling us that history is far older.
older.
I'm very fascinated with the Tuatha De Danann from Ireland. And I know I was butchered in the comments a couple of years back when I was saying Tuatha De Danann because that's how it looks and it sounds cool, but not at all close
I
to what it
say that
sounds like.
to
Right,
after day Danan.
right,
The
right.
way that the Irish say it is a lot sweeter.
It is, of
Tweta.
course,
Tweta
just
day
like everything
Danan.
else. Tuatha De Danann, yeah,
Tweta day
Dedanan,
Danan.
Dedanan.
Yeah,
But
and
they're a
the thing is,
fascinating story. When you look at those gods, they're losing limbs, they're mortal, they're very flawed, right? And we
yeah,
hear about this throughout the world. And the excuse from anthropologists is typically that, oh, well, men and women, they wanted to relate themselves to the gods, or they wanted the gods to relate to them. And so it's
mm.
an emotional response that we're getting from these quote unquote
It is, and it's
scientists.
very dismantling of the truth and making it into a pseudo history when it is. I mean, if was it Brian of Borrow was one of the last kings of Ireland.
Yes.
He was related to the 10 High Kings of the High Island, the Tuatha De Danann. And the reason why the Irish put them in as godlike beings was because during during pagan times and druidic times we had so many different deities and all over the world celebrated completely different deities, but the Irish specifically, whenever they wanted fertility or their crops to grow, they would praise to their gods. And
Mhm.
because the Tuatha De Danann were the original ancestors of the Irish, that's who that because they birthed them, so that's who they thought their gods were. And
Right.
this is where Tolkien got in from. One of his inspirations for his books was a cross between the Tuatha De Danann to the Nordic elves and the
Hmm.
Norse gods, the light elves and the dark elves, and he kind of put it as a mixture, and then came out with the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, and it is
Yes,
very interesting because if you do your genealogy, it's not that we want to be part of it, it's that we already have that bloodline. So
right.
the minute that you go through the De Clare family, one of the De Clare ladies, one of the daughters of the De Clares, married into the 10 High Kings of Ireland. And then that's what spread that birth line out to royalty, British royalty, nobility, and yeah, possibly quite a few million people.
Yeah, and we have that phenomenon of gods, supernatural entities, supposedly birthing human lineages in
Mm.
many cultures. We have the Egyptian king list, we have the Sumerian kings list, where these deities are suddenly, as they're listed as the rulers of these places, are suddenly people like King Hammurabi. And we
Yeah.
can literally trace his lineage. We know that he's a human being.
Yeah.
And so it's very disheartening to see that this is available, this material, but it's not where people flock to. And I think we brushed about on the New Age. It's everywhere because I think personally it looks to me like it's a fear of death situation where all
Right.
of these other excuses or narratives, they have something to do with our existence beyond death, whether it's religion in the classical sense in the West, or it's New Age, or it's aliens that might have been ancient aliens, so they must have all the answers that we don't have. It's
Yeah.
this desperation to to put a pin in the mystery,
Right.
to because everyone's so afraid of that unknown, But I feel like this is more of just reclaiming our own history, right?
Yeah. It's reclaiming our history and sovereignty. For me personally, Dad always used to go on about reclaiming your sovereignty. You're supposed to be a free man. And that's
Mhm.
not in the sense of the straw man theory. That can be
Right,
a
the
bit
political stuff.
obscured. Yeah, I've
That's a
been
whole
down that
mess.
rabbit hole many, many years ago. But reclaiming your sovereignty, that if we are all related to King David, why are we slaves? Still today in 2026, there is slavery going on. And it is
Hmm.
anybody that goes out and works for any other purpose than themselves. So this is what I try and promote is how you can be self-sufficient on your own, and like living off the land. And sometimes I think this whole homesteading and off-grid living, that can be a bit of a farce as well. If
Oh
you
yeah.
don't own the land yourself, or you're paying back a mortgage for the land, or you're promoting it that you're living off grid, but you've got a camera there and you're online. Yeah, it's a bit of a farce, but
Yeah, we're all
there's
connected to the system no matter what.
yeah, yeah, and this is the thing. We're never going to get away with being part of the system, but there's little parts of your life that you can go and do, you can explore, you can create, so that you
Mhm.
have your own little bubbles of sovereignty, so that you're not like with me being an author, and researching and having the dragon court. That's me having my sovereignty and trying to promote that to other people, and
Mhm.
allowing or promoting the freedom of free will. I think that's what sovereignty is all about. We can't go and claim the throne. I'm probably
Right.
1,000th down the line when it comes to the throne. A couple of battles and heads chopped off for me to get there.
Right, and it wouldn't even be the same throne anyway, because I mean, this is a merchant king style system that's being run here. I
Yeah,
mean,
they don't
it's
really have
all
any
fraud.
yeah, well they're just puppets. I do feel sorry for them because they've had so many of their what they were able to do. Then they don't they're not able to have that sort of level of control anymore,
Right.
since King Charles II raiding Parliament. Um, yeah, so it's a difficult. They don't govern their countries anymore. They're just there as sitting ducks to look good. Which it's a shame. It is a shame because I do love the royal family, and I think it would be a shame if that was taken away from us, or if we got rid of the royal family, because I think that's part of what makes Britain great.
Hmm. I think that's a really important point, and I'd love to ask you more about that just because it's not very often I get to talk to someone who appreciates the royal family,
Yeah.
and I'm sure it goes much deeper than surface level, like, oh, I liked Queen Elizabeth or whatever. I mean, I'd like to hear about that because here in tinfoil hat land,
Mm,
the royal family in England has been the devil incarnate in everyone's
yeah.
eyes for years. And I'm not trying to promote or dismiss it. I'm curious what your perspective is on that, because I mean, shit, yeah.
Yeah, I've always been really quite proud of them. Queen Elizabeth didn't need to take on that role, and
Hmm.
her father certainly didn't need to take on that role, but they did, and they did it with grace, and they've continued it. And it's especially when you go to the Tsars of Russia with Nicholas and his family, that was probably
Hmm.
the Romanovs. That was probably one of the most horrible stories ever. And when I watched it, honestly, Andy, I cried my eyes out. And I think
Hmm.
there's something inside of me that I feel it more because I know that I'm related to them. I
Sure,
feel
yeah.
it's part of my family that that has happened to, that extra persecution. I mean, God, you could be persecuted because you're a witch, because you're a pagan, because you're, any label, because you're autistic, but then to be persecuted because you're royal and you've been given this bloodline that you don't necessarily ask for at birth, it's just something that
That's
you're
fair.
born into. None of us ask for it when we're born, do we? And yeah, I
Mm.
think it's just and I think, what is it? Iona Miller used to call it Jungian theory.
Hmm.
When you ancestrally, because of your bloodline, you feel certain things or certain things.
Hmm.
Um, don't know if it's past life or anything like that. I'm not necessarily into that sort of stuff, but I just think there's a deep embedded feeling within the bloodline that it's part of you. And, if that happens again, what would happen to my children or my grandchildren or my grandchildren's children? You know,
Right.
it's horrible. I think that level of humanity and empathy stays with me. I love the royal family. I'm
Hmm.
really proud to be part of that. And my nan and granddad, actually, my great nan used to work for Queen Victoria, and
Oh
they used
wow.
to live in the quarters of Queen Victoria's house at
My goodness.
Victoria Cottage in Whippingham in the Isle of Wight. Yeah, so that's wonderful. They're actually on the household rolls for
Uh-huh.
Queen Victoria. So my nan, when we were younger, and this is probably why it is, when we were younger, and we would go up to Nanny and Grandad's house in Wales, Nan used to have us with books on our head and make us do the walk and um, try and teach us to be debutantes and stuff. I mean,
Oh
this is in the
geez.
1990s. It's like you've got to
This
walk
is out,
boldly,
Dad. This isn't
Abby, with
happening.
your head up high.
Wow.
And
That's
make us
that's really
polish all the
interesting.
silver.
That's such a cool perspective to hear because I mean, just like in America, our politicians are seemingly the devil, especially now with all the Epstein connections and everything like that. So to hear like appreciation for even just the foundation that it has existed for so long in Britain,
Yeah.
I can totally appreciate that,
Well, I think it's my grandparents must have taught us to appreciate them as well, because my nan, we'd go over to Cowes on holiday, and
Hmm.
yeah, my nan, she'd make sure that we'd go there because it was important to her for us to know exactly who we are and where we come from, and that her mother was a part of Queen Victoria's household. So
Right, right. Wow, that's amazing.
yeah,
And so that's just another example of how small everything really is. The world is very small when it comes to genes,
yeah,
and we're all somehow related to everyone else in a way.
yeah.
And this gives us a lot to play with when it comes to history, and what we could find out in the next coming years as people get more turned on to these ideas,
Mm.
you
I
know?
think it's become more popular. A lot more people are wanting to do their genealogy and find out exactly who they are and where they come from.
Hmm.
Um, I'm getting quite a few people asking me to do their genealogy for them, and I find it fascinating because they can be all the way over in America. And I think
Hmm.
there was one person I turned around to back in October, and the dragon came out in me, the intuition, and I said, I know who you are. You're related to me through the Scottish royals. And that was, we didn't do it just yet, but I kind of just knew. And then we got to it, and yeah, I'm related to him through the Scottish royals, through the Stuarts, and it was
That's
just,
crazy.
he was so tiny and he looked like me and he acted like me, and there was so many similarities between us, and I was like, you're definitely of my bloodline. And
Right.
yeah, so I think we connected 3 or 4 times over, and his lines are really um, this is where my new book, The Forgotten Royals of the USA, comes in, because his lines, the Hunters, he's got the Hunters, the Craigs, the Truesdales, and it goes back to the McGees and the Lowrys, and then goes into the Fergusons and the Cunninghams of Scotland. And his family, the Hunters, actually came over from England, and the Gilpins came over from England and colonized the United States of America, and they brought in the timber trade and the tobacco industry and things like that. So there's families like his that have come along, and then they've stayed together. At one point, we had a Hunter family here and a Hunter family there. And I think that they were cousins at some point, but they were in different spaces. But then they
Right.
married into the same lines and then made him inbred, so to
Right.
speak. But
Right.
it was very distant cousins, so it's not inbred as in marry your first cousin, something like that. But
Right.
then that wealth has come from both of those lines, and then the Scottish kings, and it's all stayed down into that thing. And without families like that, then what would the United States of America be? Without that level of colonization. And this is what I find fascinating, because a lot of American people are interested in their genealogy, and they do want to know if they have, and sometimes they have Frankenstein trees, and it's just kind of like,
Right.
well.
Of
But
course.
then to find information like that for the readers, it doesn't necessarily matter if you're this one specific person. There's going to be names in that book that you're going to be able to link yourself to throughout your tree, that's going to get you that information back to Scottish ancestry and Scottish royalty.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And we're finding out more and more about here in the States anyway, that things go back way further too. Like there was kingdoms here, it seems, that we didn't even know about. And there's a
Okay.
history here connected to serpent symbolism here in America, if you didn't know that we have
Yeah.
this old word, which is weird because it goes right up against academic history. So I haven't been able to make heads or tails of it yet, but that a lot of the natives from, Central America all the way up here
Mhm.
into the States used to refer to this whole landmass as Amaruca,
Oh,
which
right.
meant land of the plumed serpent,
Yeah.
which related to Quetzalcoatl,
Yeah.
Kukulkan, Viracocha, all these gods that have serpent, dragon symbolism every single time.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing to see that it could have it be, it's just so, it's everywhere.
That's
It's
what
no
I'm
matter where you
finding out
look.
at the moment. There's some people that I've got in Peru that have Inca royalty, and they discuss all of their dragon symbology. If you look around the whole world, everywhere in the world has dragon symbology or snake symbology. I think I've got a friend up in Alaska, and he said to me, I don't necessarily, he says, I don't necessarily want to be part of your dragon court or anything like that. Or he says, I've got my own information about the serpent. And it's to have all of these people from different areas of the world coming to me and discussing this with me. I find it fascinating, of how people have take, and they were all deities. That's the thing. They were all gods at one point, weren't they?
Mm.
I think there was Baal, and then obviously you had the serpent on the staff from Moses. So yeah, I think as time's gone on, it's just kind of, it's cemented in those certain areas. I would be interested if they had it in Iceland as well. Well, they do, don't they? They have the Nordic version of the Dragon Slayer that
Oh
ended
yeah.
up in the pool of blood, and that's what gave him the dragon bloodline.
That's right. And not only that, but they also have a serpent that takes out the world at the at the end of during Ragnarok in
Yeah, oh my
Norse
God, I've seen
mythology,
that.
which might be an inversion or it might, I mean, a lot of those stories, no offense to anybody, but I've definitely heard that a lot of Christian or Catholic writers were the ones translating and popularizing a lot of their versions of Norse mythology as well. That
Mm.
has gotten mixed in a lot in pop culture and their
Mm.
culture as well. But then there's the Ouroboros as well, which I'm not sure what
The
continent
dragon
that
or the
goes back
snake
to.
eating the tail, the
Yeah,
never
which
ending, it's like a circle of life that if you
right,
don't
yeah,
stop.
cyclical.
Yeah, that's it. If you don't stop, and I think that's one of the things that we all do is the say with traumas and things like that, we have to stop the cycle of trauma happening
Mhm.
with our generation now so that it doesn't
Yep.
happen to our children. I think I've been rather successful at that with the way that I've brought up my own children, that they don't necessarily, they're not going to be experiencing necessarily what I experienced. But then
Hmm.
life's different now, isn't it? Hopefully.
Sure is. I mean, I'm homeschooling my 8-year-old son. We've
Oh
been doing it the
wow.
whole time, and it's getting way easier now that he's getting older. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously that's
Yeah,
very
you
common
just
with
wait until
children
he wants to
anyway.
start learning Japanese, mate, honestly.
All for it. He's into, engineering and physics and all that stuff.
That's fantastic.
He's interested in history as much as he's willing to, you know, allow me to force on him.
Yeah.
But it's so important, and I think homeschooling right now is a big boom. There's like massive numbers compared to just a couple of years ago
Yeah.
of people homeschooling all over the
Before
place.
COVID, because we have autism, and this is the thing, one of the traits that's always stayed with us is autism, but it's only
Mhm.
now coming out that it's a thing, but we've always had it, right?
Yeah.
And autism, you get persecuted in schools for. And my son was getting lots of detentions. I used to say that the teachers were giving out detentions like Milky Bars. They're on me.
Yeah.
And so I decided to take both my kids out of school just before COVID. And then a
Yeah.
week later, COVID happened and you had to anyway. But
Good
yeah,
timing.
my son was teaching me Japanese. We
Wow.
would
That's
have the
impressive.
homeschooling teacher come round just to make sure that we was doing all right, and would be discussing life with her in Japanese, teaching her Japanese, and she was like, "You're absolutely fine. I don't need to come back here." I was like, "Nice one."
That's awesome. How old is
Yeah,
he?
him is 20 now.
Wow.
Yeah,
So a teenager just like learning Japanese on his own. That's pretty awesome.
yeah,
That's
and
pretty
that
cool.
he's autodidact, so anything that he wants to research. I mean, I think I walked in on him one day and it was all quiet in his bedroom. And, as a parent, you're like, oh, why is it so quiet in there? It's like, what am I going to
Yeah,
walk
yeah.
into? He's teaching himself the Treaty of Paris and Versailles.
What the That's awesome. I mean, I guess you couldn't be prouder in that moment.
I know.
Well, you know
Absolutely
what?
no
I
funny business going on. He's teaching himself the Treaty of Paris and Versailles, and yeah, he likes to research his own thing, and he's taught himself how to develop computer games and how to do coding and stuff. And yeah, two very different children. One going off swanning around the world. She's gone to Iceland, France, and Budapest within the
hell yeah,
last
good for
3 months, and yeah, she's climbing herself up the ladder. And another child who doesn't really like society and wants to teach himself everything. So
her. That's pretty nice.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm right now. My wife and I keep having this conversation because my wife is just as tinfoil hat as I am about about things in the world, and she and I continuously have this talk. Like, how do we, like, I'm obsessed with history, so she's like, how are you going to teach him history? Like, what are you going to show him? Like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, because we know there's filled, history's filled with holes and filled with lies and filled with misinterpretations.
Yeah, we're never
And I'm like,
taught the
well,
things, are we, at school?
right.
There's a
I
lot of
always,
things that I learned at school that I've learned more now than what I ever did then.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's
Very
for sure.
surface level, isn't it? Very surface
But
level.
the unschooling word, right? The unlearning is a process, and I'm not sure if it's just for us in this moment where everyone's kind of waking up here and there. I feel as though it's almost like part of the process that's needed.
Mm.
We could probably relate it to some initiation process in secret societies or something where the learning of falsehoods while he's growing up, not entirely, I'm not saying, but I'm going to teach him straight history. And
Yeah.
then when he gets older, it might be a better time to be like, hey, remember that whole
And
situation we
that's what
learned
I was
about?
just about to say. It's all
Mm.
about schooling system is a game of memory, isn't it? It's all
Oh,
about
yeah.
teaching you how to remember things. And I was never very good at that.
Me either.
I'm still not very good at it. I can remember little snippets of things, but it's like I've said this to you before. If you were to have an interview with Thomas, Thomas is like a walking encyclopedia. He can
Yeah.
remember everything to the point of the actual conversation and the words that might have been said. Whereas I'm like, nah, a little bit of stuff and a little bit of
Oh,
this
yeah.
and stuff.
Oh, yeah. I'm the
I
same
don't
way talking about
remember
ancient
all of
history.
it. Yeah,
Like
but
some
Thomas
army
could go on
invaded
about
this
the
area.
Teutonic
I can't
Knights.
remember.
But we're not
Yeah.
taught about the Magna Carta in school. I knew about the Magna Carta, but it wasn't until I went and did the law degree that we learned even more about it being one of the very first laws or written laws. And then to find out that every single knight that was in it, that signed it, I was related to every single one of them. And I was like, whoa,
Wow.
yeah,
Now, do you guys go? Are you guys related to the Templars as well?
yes,
Or yeah, I thought so.
yeah.
And of course, there's been so much written
It's a
about
difference.
Templars
The
and
Templars, this right, the real Templars were actually um a lot of them wore chastity belts. A lot of them
mm,
didn't have wives. So to be related to actual Templars, it would be quite difficult. But we were related to the Crusaders. So
okay,
I think
yeah.
it's Godfrey de Bouillon, and like I said before, I think there was Gilbert de Clare. They were all, and Joan of Acre. They were all crusaders
Hmm.
that would go off and rage Jerusalem because they wanted to. I think some of them became leaders or kings of Jerusalem and Constantinople.
Hmm.
But yeah, I can get my genealogy back to, I've done Alfred the Great, but I haven't gone further on that one because I don't want to be related to Odin because Alfred the Great fibbed.
Yeah, explain that. I
Right.
know a little bit of that tale.
So when the Vikings came over, I think King Canute came over, um, and raided England and became king of England.
Hmm.
Alfred the Great, in order for them to claim that lineage, if they claimed that they were related to a god, and they did their genealogy, then they would have the divine right to rule. So that's where it comes from, and it's known that Alfred the Great lied about, and a lot of them have lied. I think there's the reigning king of Ethiopia has lied about his lineage, saying that he's related to Muhammad or something like that, in order for
Hmm.
him to have the throne. But yeah, I think I did my genealogy. I did one quest the other day about the Davidic line, the Grail bloodline. Um,
Yes,
so
very
in
important topic.
Dad's books, the Grail bloodline goes through to Jesus. However, I've always steer clear of that.
Hmm.
Because the minute that you say that you're related to Jesus, you get called a pseudo historian,
Of
or
course.
it's ploppy plop. But I managed to get my genealogy back through the House of Stuart through to um, a Greek line. I can't remember his name, but I did a post on it and I said, how are all these people related? And through one of these people, I found out that it actually went back to James the Just and went back through to the Davidic line. So that's another topic that I'm going to be breaking through, exposing on, or pushing forward, promoting. In my another one of my next books, The Twin Thrones of Tara and the Merovingians. Um,
Yeah, that's what I was very excited about. The Merovingian line, that whole
yeah.
part of history that not a lot of people know about. They've never heard of Dagobert or any of
Mm,
those situations. And when you brought up the Davidic line, there's some part of, again, it's either your dad's direct books or it was Lawrence Gardner, writing
yeah.
about it. But there's this passage and it's about Dirkestai culture, which
Mm,
Dirkestai is that, what is it called? Your dad calls it an unqualified past tense, or that Drakon or Edricon was a unqualified
Edgertown.
past tense of
Yeah.
Dirkestai, which is a verb to see clearly or
Yeah.
whatever, meaning dragon. But it says the Aryan Hittites in particular were close allies of the Jews whose draconian royal family, the House of David, made the Israelites, in a cultural sense, an early Aryan nation. And the Scythians and the Aryan Scythian Gales had numerous settlements either in or adjacent to Israel and Judah.
Yeah.
And that organization of words is probably one of the most mind-blowing things that I had ever read at the time because it connected so many different threads right in
Yeah.
that paragraph. The idea of one, putting Jews and Aryans together is a very interesting thing. And that's something that I was already kind of interested in
Right.
before I had found any of you guys' work. And I was like, holy shit, there's something to this, that they were all one people at one
Yeah.
point coming from the same damn areas,
Yeah.
all using the swastika in a positive
Well,
sense,
it was a
you
peace
know?
symbol back then, wasn't it?
Right.
If you look into different areas, it's a peace symbol. And I think that we have to be very careful what we say on this because
Of
whatever we
course.
say is going to be taken out of context. And before
Well,
you know
hopefully
it,
not with
I'm
my
going to be a
audience.
Nazi.
Hopefully not with my audience. And honestly,
Yeah.
it's an area of study that needs to kind of be
Yeah, symbology
desensitized a bit.
very important in the way that symbology's changed over time. But the basis of what it is that yes, everybody was kind of living in the same area at the same time, and it would be, I mean, intermingling, interbreeding, and then that's why we are here today. Many of
Right.
us have different. I've got Jewish in me. I've got about, it's only about 0.3%. Is it Ashkenazi Jew in
Ashkenazi,
me?
yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of my family were gypsies, and I'm related to one of the biggest gypsies. He was king of the gypsies, Absalom Smith.
Oh,
Now,
I've heard
his
about him.
yeah, he had 56 grandchildren. Um, but if you look at his lineage, then his lineage is going to come from, it's going to be migrated from Romany, and then the Romany side is then going to be migrated further. So yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it?
It really is.
Um, yeah, I can be related to Greeks, I can be related to Jews, Gypsies, Scots, Iranians, Afghanis. I've got so many different family bloodlines within my myself. Yeah, I find it absolutely fascinating. I really do, and I think it was important for Dad to write that sort of stuff to kind of stop all of this racism or um, hatred against multiculturalism. Um,
Right.
you know, I think, and it was difficult for the way that he wrote it as well for the reader to digest that. Some people wouldn't
Sure.
necessarily like it. Um, yeah, he would kind of get
Well,
trolled and bashed.
I've been trying to articulate the best way I can, and I'm going to be putting out solo episodes by myself, just kind of narrating my own writing. And I'm trying to articulate as best I can that it honestly doesn't matter who did what. Like from my narrative, my personal what I'm after is I'm just trying to bring the past back down to earth where it
Yeah,
belongs. And in order to do that, we may have to talk about groups that happened to spread out agriculture and animal
yeah,
husbandry and structure building everywhere at a certain time because honestly, a lot of it is being passed off for supernatural deities doing it
Yeah,
for us. And I think
yeah,
I mean, you and I talk about conspiracy theories a lot and different things going on in the world. And honestly, I find one of the main themes to be that they want to take our power away from us. And
yeah,
everyone seems to agree with that. Whether you're a flat earther or a Christian or whatever, people kind of seem to center around that. And I
yeah.
feel like I'm just curious what you think. Don't you think that gods and aliens, instead of human builders and origins, are a way to take us away from
Yeah,
ourselves even more?
it is. It's like I've said earlier, it's another level of indoctrination,
Mm,
to take away that power from how special human beings really are, what we're
yeah,
actually capable of. If you tell people time and time again that you can't do it, you can't do it, then they tend to believe you, don't they?
right.
I don't necessarily believe in aliens. I don't believe that alien beings were sent down and did all of that to the pyramids. I definitely believe that they were man-made with
Hmm.
quite a lot of effort, a hell of a lot of effort.
Oh, yeah.
But if we're able to make the pyramids and things like that, and I do believe Graham Hancock in a way about lost civilizations and abilities of these civilizations, lost technologies, um, in that sense of how did we lift such rocks? Um,
Right.
I believe that there was something. Maybe there was a water. Maybe there was. I don't believe that it was aliens going. It's like if you
Right.
look at crop circles nowadays, they show you how crop circles are made. They don't show you Bob and Janet and all of their gang of about 50 people with a load of boards slapping the blooming hay down, do they? They're like,
No.
oh my God, it was alien beings.
Right. And we certainly don't have pyramid hoaxers anywhere, that's for sure. We
No.
yeah, it definitely took something. And lost technology doesn't have to look like any technology we have today anyway. It could have
Yeah.
been more spiritual, like you
I
were
do
saying.
believe in what he says. I do believe that we probably did have a technology, and then because of all of the floods,
Yeah.
that it's all been kind of wiped out, and you do have to start again. And then with the hundreds of years that go by, that knowledge isn't necessarily ingrained in you. How many people are alive after a catastrophe?
Right. And
You
how
have
many
to
people
start
remember
again,
it
don't you?
properly? Yeah, look at the trauma that we go through on like an individual basis. Like consider like childhood trauma. How much of that, my God, I've witnessed it firsthand from many of people I love and care about that kind of suddenly have this revelation of things that went on when they were kids that they had blocked
Yeah,
out of their
yeah,
minds. Imagine that on a planetary scale after some massive cataclysm. Whoever's left on the surface, the moment of impact and everything that happened before is going to be a foggy memory at best, I would say.
uh, yeah. How awful that you have to start all over again. Um,
Right. And
yeah,
how amazing would it be to encounter other people that somehow had the knowledge of the skies,
yeah. And this
saw
is
what
the
was
thing.
coming?
Yeah, this is the thing. When we go back into the Anunnaki and the Nephilim and the Watchers, this is what I
Yes.
feel that I feel that Homo heidelbergensis were the giant people. Because they were around for hundreds of thousands of years beforehand, and they were the elders. And this is what I was trying to get at earlier. I probably forgot because I got distracted. But
My
little
best of it.
Homo floresiensis, they were the Hobbit people. And if you think about them looking up at these beings, they would be from the sky, wouldn't they? They would
Yeah.
be the elders, they would be the wise ones, they would know how to light fires, they would know the social economics of the area, how to behave and what to do, or how to hunt, how to do this. So in a way, you've got these beings that are from the sky because you're looking up to the sky, teaching everybody, and then obviously mating with other beings, species beings. And I think I
Hmm.
said this to you last time that Neanderthal men were more likely to mate with Homo sapien females And then that's how the whole interbreeding happened. And I'm sure that, you know, if you got a short, what is it? They call them Denisovans. I
Yep.
think the Denisovans were the mixture of the Homo sapien female and the Neanderthal. I mean, why would a Homo Denisovans not find a Homo floresiensis attractive? You know,
Right.
if you're in a bottleneck community, you might do, you know. And then they're all learning each other's languages and stuff. They might have their own little language to speak to their people, and you still
Hmm.
see that today, actually. That if you, in certain areas in like the Turkic regions and Afghanistan regions or Mongolian regions, they will have a language that is universal that they know, but then they'll have a language that they can speak to their next door neighbor with.
Yeah, yeah. That's like it's the mingling of cultures is absolutely where we get a lot of our myth confusions as
Mm.
well. I mean, we see the same stories just told slightly differently all over. And
Yeah.
you mentioned the Nephilim.
Yeah.
Man, there is some hot-headed people out there in the alternative community that are obsessed with Nephilim
Yeah.
and obsessed with that whole story. They connect it to Bigfoot if they want. They connect it to
It's difficult though, isn't it?
demons and
Because
fallen
they're
angels.
getting it from the Bible, and a lot of them
Of
are
course,
these really, I'm into God, I'm into the Bible, whatever the Bible says is absolutely true, and they can be
has to
really
be.
aggressive with it. They can be horrible and nasty. Um,
A shame.
and it's their narrative or no narrative. And if you dare to disagree with them, then you're banished to the devil, you're the spawn of Satan. And
Right. Yeah.
yeah, that's one thing that we do get. Um, I think some people think that we're related to Satan, that we come from Satan, and
Yeah.
yeah, how
Yeah,
can
because
you be
Satan's
such a
clearly a
nice
dragon,
person?
right?
I would be ruthless if I was related to Satan. Surely I would be running the world by now.
Right. It's that great speech. Like, what would it look like if the devil really did take over? And like,
Yeah.
well, it lists
But
off everything
we've
going
gotten
on.
into such a line of false prophets now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This whole Nephilim thing. Do they believe in the dawn of creation? Do they think that Adam was the only man and then there was no other men around? Because that's not true.
It's really weird.
He was the only perfect man, but there were loads of other men around.
There's loads of other gods. Like, who the hell was God talking to when he said, "Oh no, they have become like us because
Yeah,
they've eaten of the." Yeah, who's us?
yeah,
It's kind of it's a circular argument, and it's denial, and it's again we go back to if you take away my life after death, I'm gonna fight you because it's all that's holding me together right now. That's kind of what it feels like.
yeah,
If I find out that I don't know what's gonna happen when I die, if this
right,
is taken from me, I can't be who I am. I've put
okay,
myself together based on this foundation, and if it falls apart, I'm fucked. And so I
right,
that's and of course no one would ever admit to those things. No one's afraid of death, especially Christians. But
right, okay.
but it feels very much
Well, do
like
you feel
a
that
very
that is
emotional
because they
state.
come up with reincarnation and they come up with all of these other things?
Well, those are offshoots, right? I mean, the New Age loves to put many different spins. I just call New Age repackaged Western religion because it still promises so many things. It just turns it into something multi. It doesn't have one direct path. You can have 15 different paths, whether you're listening to Bashar or you're taking in the gurus from the 60s. Everybody's got a different narrative, but overall, it's right. We're star beings. And we get
Yeah,
to travel to Neptune when we die if we want, or I get to go hang out with Bruce Willis when he's dead. Whatever you want, right? Because
yeah.
we are and we're
Whatever
getting a
you want to
little
believe, isn't it? That keeps you happy, that satisfies you.
right. And I know that, mostly you and I talk about history and stuff, but I know you're a very spiritual person, and we've definitely treaded these waters in our personal conversations about spiritual gnosis and things like that, and all the different faiths that are out there. And of course, I'd say that there's a lot of truth to faith. I think there's a reason why it's embedded in us so deeply in a lot of ways. But at the same time, it's like these things can be true or possible without attaching human written fairy tales to them.
Yeah, it's
You know?
funny, isn't it? You know, when I think about my parents, obviously both of them are dead. And I
Yeah.
do, I'm so confused. Like when I'm talking to you right now, I'm thinking, is anybody thinking that it's actually an abyss of nothingness? That you
Right.
die and there's just absolutely nothing there. But then say for example, there's certain things that happen to me. Like I'll just get little memories, or something will happen to me. Say my keys go missing, or or I see a white feather. And I think I like to surround myself with knowing or feeling like I know that my parents are still with me, watching me. It's peculiar, isn't it? Because then at the same time, I'm like, oh, it's nothing. There's nothing. I'm not going to go off into heaven and be with my parents. So we're not going to gaily go along, held in hands, skipping along on clouds or
Yeah,
something.
just have another life up
Yeah.
there. It's like, why would another life happen after a life?
I would come
It's
back
just
and torment
ruined.
everybody that trolled me.
Right, there you go. Yeah, haunt them all, right? In the form
Yeah.
of a dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It is funny, isn't it? Because it can change so many times of what your idea and perception of it is.
mean,
But yeah, I think spiritualism, it's a funny thing, isn't it? I think it only satisfies you, it suits your satisfaction of, yeah, the narrative that you want for that time being. Um,
yeah.
so if you're sad and you're lonely, then it suits that satisfaction to comfort you. Um,
Mhm.
but we're never going to know. We're never really going to know. But
No,
I,
that's
I
why we
do
bathe
I
in the
do believe in
mystery.
a way that there is. I do have some sort of psychic ability. I have seen ghosts. I have seen ghosts. I think the
Yeah.
first ghost that I saw, I was around about. The one that I remember was my friend Lisa, and she was walking her dog, and I was walking over the other side of the road, and I saw her with this little old lady with these big 1980s glasses on. And I thought, oh, well, she's with her nan. I'm just going to leave her to it. And I went round to her house the next day, and I said, oh, did you have a nice dog walk yesterday? I saw you with your nan. And her mum and sister would like jumped up and said, what are you talking about? Lisa wasn't with her nan. And I said, no, she was. She definitely was. And they said, well, what did she look like? And I turned around and I saw a photo, and I said, that's what she looked like. They were like, get out, she's dead.
Like,
And mum and sister went absolutely fucking mental at me. Yeah.
whoa. That's pretty intense. And yeah,
Oh, it was.
I,
Yeah. Her sister was a big butch bitch, and she had knocked my teeth out.
and they
You don't
will.
want to mess with her.
Jeez. I mean, I've known a lot of people in my time so far that claim that they've seen ghosts, and I've never seen anything. I've had my own very weird experiences though, for
Okay.
sure. And I still say this place is very weird.
Yeah.
That we're, I feel like we're
Have you
swimming
never
in a
seen like
psychedelic,
weird fogs and stuff, or
not
had
necessarily, but I
feelings?
mean, I've achieved psychedelic states without psychedelics, meditation and fasting and sensory deprivation. I messed with all of these things after I did psychedelics because I was
Right.
like, wait a minute, I'm reading these ancient sages and
Okay.
these gurus saying that acid's got nothing on just sitting there with yourself.
Yeah.
So knowing that these God, what are they called? Prana, the visions
Yeah.
are connected to you specifically, not from some out external source that necessary. Maybe the psychedelics just hold a door open that was already
Right.
there in the brain to begin with. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But
I
so
don't
since I
really know
had,
because I've never really done psychedelics.
oh, okay, all right. Well, I mean, I'll
It's
tell you
never
this. I'm
really been something that I've been interested in.
That's
Um,
fair. That's funny is a lot of spiritual, sensitive people I know have said the same thing. They're like, "Oh, I don't want to do that. Oh God, the floodgates
yeah,
will open."
I don't drink alcohol. I don't
Well, that's
smoke
good.
weed. I only vape, and that's
Yeah,
nicotine. It's nothing else.
right.
I think as I've got older, I don't like losing control. I think because I've done Clandini. I've done
Kundalini.
my little awakening, and I've gone through my shadow work and stuff. And honestly, sometimes this is weird, right? When I was working for the ambulance service, and before that, if I look down at the carpet, it goes all fuzzy and pixelated, and it looks like some sort of synthesis. What's that word that they try and use?
I
What's
don't
that?
know. Synthesis works.
Um, yeah, dimension. That
Okay.
it's a hologram or something like that. And say like places like the ambulance service and things, that it's just kind of like, oh, what is that word?
I don't know. I wish I could
No,
help you
I
out.
don't know what the word is, but it's manipulated to make you think that it's there when it's not there.
Like
An
an illusion?
illusion. Yeah,
Okay.
like an illusion of the like a hospital, like an airport, like all of these sort of places. They're all like an illusion. That it's
Oh, are you talking about liminal spaces? Liminal?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Places between places, kind of. Yeah.
And like
That's a
and
that's
all
a
of
whole
these
topic.
people that are there, NPCs, they're there, to make it
Mm,
look busy, and this is how you're supposed to do life, and this is where you need to go if you want to go to France, or you want to go to blah blah blah.
yeah.
And yeah, it spun me out. It absolutely spun me out. And I think there's been so many times where I've been at home, or I think one time I was tripping, like not being tripping, not taking anything. But I was watching, like I could see this cartoon of Mickey Mouse cartoon projecting right in front of me, like the old version, black and white one with Mickey Mouse on a choo-choo train, go boop, 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 boop. And it was just like that old. And I was like, fucking hell. But I hadn't taken anything. So I don't, if that's what I'm going to see when I haven't taken anything, I don't want to take anything. That would
Yeah, that's the
spin
story
me
I hear.
right out.
Yeah, it seems like you don't need it. That's
No,
fair.
daytime trip. But they say
Well,
that you've
of
got
the
levels of DMT inside your brain already, don't they?
right. They absolutely do know for a fact it's in our brains. They just don't know why or
Yeah.
necessarily where.
Well, it's
Hippies
in the
love to just
pineal
yell
gland, isn't it?
they
It
love
comes
to
from
say
the
it's the
pineal
pineal
gland.
gland, but there's no proof that it's ever like I don't believe they've ever found DMT there, but that could be
Right.
updated now. I might have old information.
Mm.
But it would make sense. That's the seat of the soul. And that's also the pine cone sitting in the center of the Vatican. They know
Right.
something.
Yeah.
The pine, all the Sumerian gods giving the pine cone or
Yeah.
taking the pine cone, who knows, the bags in the hands, all the symbolism that all of us will toil over for centuries more,
Yeah. We're never
trying
going
to
to know the
understand.
truth to that one, are we? But yeah,
No, and
I
I
think
think,
I think when you do, have you ever had a an awakening, a spiritual awakening in that way?
oh
Like,
yeah,
have you
very,
done
very
your
severe.
chakras? You've aligned all your chakras, and
I
then
mean, I never did
got
it
to the
properly.
crown
Like that's the
chakra, and you felt the serpent.
No, so that's where I butt heads with that kind of spirituality in some I'm
Okay.
not saying that people can't experience it, but when there's a manual for my subconscious mind written by somebody else, I automatically go, you're implanting ideas in other people.
Yeah.
And that's
Oh no,
just my
I do
take on
agree
it.
with you. I do agree with you. It was
Yeah.
implanted to me by a guru, a cute little guru who came to me during COVID and said, "Oh, have you got a guru? Do you need this?" And I was like,
Mhm.
"Actually, I probably do need to do that extra little step of healing."
Probably.
And yeah, I did. I meditated for ages, and I did all of these. I imagined, my crown chakra, my throat chakra, my heart chakra, and all of these things. And I did feel enlightened after it. I did.
Hmm.
I did feel as if I knew something that a lot of other people didn't. And then at the same time, Black Lives Matters were starting riots, and it was almost like an awakening. And then so much, and then you realise how bad the rest of the world is still going through their indoctrinated stuff, and it kind of sets you back again. Um,
Right, right.
kind of like,
Yeah,
oh,
I had that experience when I was much younger, probably 18, 19 years old, and that was back in the very early 2000s, right after 9/11.
Right.
And so at that time, I was yelling about the Catholic Church and how evil they were and they're
Yeah.
hiding the truth and stuff like that. But then, I kind of went back to sleep on purpose. I
Yeah,
kind of
you
tell it that way.
do.
Like
This
I
is horrible, isn't it?
intentionally did because
Yeah.
there was no one to talk to, really. Like
Yeah.
I had crazy psychedelic and spiritual experiences that I couldn't relate to, that my friends couldn't relate to.
Yeah.
When we would talk
And
about
it
our trips,
isolates you, doesn't it?
they'd hit a wall. Some of
Yeah.
them have had amazing experiences that we got to share together and talk about, but I was taking it way further. I was reading every religious text I could get my hands on
Mm.
from every part of the world, trying to figure out what the hell it was that I had experienced.
Yeah.
And none of them quite matched up until I found, like, not Hinduism specifically or in general, but Advaita Vedanta, the
Yeah.
non-duality, the idea that God is everything and there's
Yeah.
no such thing as outside of God,
Yeah.
and so that's kind of where I started floating, and I was fascinated by ancient aliens at the time too. So I kept going, oh, maybe instead of aliens, it was like psychedelic mushrooms that changed everything. But I mean, even that I see now as I see governments legalizing fucking cannabis and
Yeah. And the
psychedelics. And
thing
I'm
is,
like, why
yeah,
would the bad guys
microdosing.
want to help us? And
This
I can only chalk it up
microdosing,
to
isn't there?
there's a
What if
lot of that.
years and years ago, I wondered if you could grow a plant where you could do a little bit of magic mushrooms with some cannabis and it helped with anxiety and PTSD and stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was curious about that. I didn't get that far with it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've always been curious about that. But the thing
To
about
me,
the
oh, go
church
ahead.
and stuff back then is we were taught. Do you remember when we were growing up, we were taught that Mother Teresa was good?
Right until I read Christopher Hitchens.
Oh, you're a Christopher
Yeah,
Hitchens.
I believe his book was called The Missionary Position.
Yeah, I've got that one. I've got
And of
that one.
course
He
he's
didn't go
very
into it.
atheistic, so I don't agree with everything Chris said, but yeah, that's where
No.
I learned about that.
Yeah, I don't agree with what got me about that book is that he could have dived into it a hell of a lot more than what he did. He was very tongue in cheek about it. He kept his
Mm,
lips quite sealed in comparison to what I would say. So yeah, as far as I was concerned, all of those, he didn't say that she was selling children for adoption. He didn't say about child trafficking. He was just saying about how she would steal money and she wasn't giving money to the poor people.
right.
And that all of
He's a
her,
fraud,
yeah, that she was a
much
fraud
like
and that
Gandhi.
I haven't known that about Gandhi.
Yeah, you gotta look into him too. I think it was worse though. It wasn't money.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
touchy, I think. But
right. Well,
yeah,
I
you got
mean,
a lot of
child
that going
trafficking and
around.
touchy, it's all in the same
That's true.
badness, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's the same with Bernardo's. This is my book, The Story of a Thousand Faces. This is what it's about. It's about the masks that people put on. So you've got the mask of God, you're a reborn Christian, but you've done so many bad things, but God's forgiven you. Or Bernardo's, they were done for child trafficking, or it's just awful. It really is awful. But then the
Mm.
government still support them and they're
Oh
still
yeah.
allowed to run. And that's a worry. That is a worry that is kind of like all covered up. I think
Well,
in one of the
oh,
things
sorry. Go
about
ahead.
the royal family that
Mm.
people don't necessarily like is that they call them part of this satanic vampire child trafficking pedos, obviously, and
Right.
but back in the 1960s, the Queen Mother supported a charity who ended up taking children away from families in Liverpool and Ireland and shipping them off to Australia and doing
Mm.
exactly the same thing. Whether the Queen Mother or not was aware of this, I
Mm.
don't know. But there
Right.
was a massive scandal about it. And this is my issues. There's so many masks or stories of a thousand faces, a story that keeps on getting told time and time again with a
Hmm.
different character, but it's got the same sort of, you know, motivation. In my next book, Hidden Lies of a Thousand Faces, it goes more on about the different things that we're told time and time again. So like Ethiopia, we were brought up to think that these kids had no money, they needed water, you have to go and give money to charity to help these kids. But Ethiopia is one of the most richest countries. It's just as rich as Dubai. It's the government that is so um it's difficult, isn't it? The government is
Yes.
just, yeah, so
Corrupt.
backwards, and yeah, they rob them. They rob them dry. They really do. They could give them schools. They could give them water. They don't necessarily
Mhm.
have to be living in mud huts. The
Right.
government is just so corrupt that it keeps all of its money to itself. So I think it's, yeah, I don't do a tongue in cheek Christopher Hitchens, but there was a guy when I started writing this, there was a guy that came out with the Mask of Illusions. So I wanted to call it the Mask of Illusions. But when
Oh, okay.
before I write it, I look at my title and I think, who has anybody else come out with this? Has anybody
Right.
else come out with this concept? And I found this other guy had. I haven't read his book, but yeah, he came out of a book called Mask of Illusions, which I'm assuming is very much on the same concept of it. So I'm just going for a little bit of the things that I found out and then let him have that. And if anybody wants to go and read Mask of Illusions, go for it. I might go and buy it once I've written this. I'm not going to buy it beforehand because I don't want it to, you know, get in the way of my inspiration of what my own story was and what I found out.
Right.
I'm probably going to find out later that we're very, very, very similar and that we've got very similar ideas of
That'd be
our
great.
research. Yeah,
Another
but I think
collaboration, you know?
Mask of Illusions is probably going to be an interesting book.
So yeah, real quick back to the royal family. I did want to ask you something. The connection to Epstein too is really frightening. With have you seen the image of Kevin Spacey and Ghislaine Maxwell
No,
sitting
but
on the
Kevin
throne
Spacey,
seats
I have
in the
heard
royal in
before
Buckingham
that Kevin
Palace?
Spacey was a bit touchy touchy.
Oh yeah, for sure. But so there's also a really creepy image, and I don't know. We live in a very difficult time with AI and not just AI, Photoshop before that. But there's an image. I can't remember the name of the cabin, but the Queen had a cabin in either Scotland or Ireland that they would go to often. There's pictures uh, of her, the Windsors at this place, and then there's a picture of Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein on the same exact front porch with like
Oh,
the same
wow.
knots in the wood and everything. And
Right.
so that one, I don't, it's creepy, right? It's very
It is.
suspicious with all these things.
Yeah.
And
Have
we can
you
never
heard
know
the
what's
latest one
fake and what's
about
true.
princesses
What's that?
and
Say that
Sarah
again?
Ferguson?
I've heard of Sarah Ferguson, but what
Sarah
about her?
Ferguson was Andrew's wife of many,
Oh,
many years.
yeah. The shit that
And
she was
it's just
saying.
come out that she was paid off. She was sending emails to Epstein saying that she needed paying.
Mm.
She took her daughters away on holiday, and her daughters were witness to something, and they were given hush money.
Oh, geez. Well, yeah, the first thing that she had said publicly, she got interviewed by someone in mainstream news, and she was like, "Well, it seems like anybody who was anybody was on those lists. So
Uh,
it's almost like if you weren't hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, you were a bit of a loser." And it's like, this is not a good look for
yeah,
royalty or royalty adjacent either, you know. But I mean, that's the problem. The Epstein thing seems like a massive distraction too, unfortunately.
yeah,
It's like
it
a
is.
lot
What
of real
else is
stuff.
going on?
Right. I mean,
What's
we're
going
about to
on at the
destroy.
moment that we should be knowing about? It's like what happened with COVID. When COVID was going on and all of these riots were going on with Black Lives Matters,
Yeah.
what they were doing behind the scenes is they were stopping cancer patients having treatments.
Hmm.
Um, they were closing all the hospitals, doing the TikToks. They were also changing the judicial review system so that certain court cases wouldn't go through, and that if you wanted to, judicial law or judicial review is when something in law is incorrect, and that you, the person, speak up for it and go for a judicial review to change the law on it. So then they were changing all of the rules surrounding that, so that there's certain things that you can't change in law, that you can't stick up for. But nobody knew about it. I knew about it because I was doing a dissertation about judicial review. I did 8,000 words for that, and then I just didn't want to do it. And then I went and did COVID, and I found out everything about COVID that I didn't want to know.
Right.
But it kind of opens up your eyes to the background noise that isn't coming forward. You're not taught about it. And honestly, when you do a law degree, you find out everything that's wrong with the whole system, the law system in itself. Yeah, they're
Oh
just all
man, could
playing the
I?
game.
Would I? This would be a totally different episode. But man, do you know a lot about Black's Law Dictionary?
What do you
That's a
mean?
rabbit hole to go down because apparently there's a lot of TikTokers and people on Facebook and everywhere else talking about who have talked for a long time about Black's Law Dictionary and how the terminology kind of gives up the
Oh,
ghost and kind of shows what a fraud, what a fallacy a lot of the legal system is and what it
yeah.
really means. But of course, that's also getting into like the sovereign
That's
citizens
everything, though. That's
stuff.
everything within law. Honestly,
Yeah,
that's everything
fair
within
enough.
law. It's all like a circle to make, and it's a performance as well. It's never about truth and honesty. It's always about how you can manipulate somebody to believe you. And court as a whole, it's a show. It's just a show. And
Yeah,
who's the best actor on the day?
I think
That's what
about
my
wars
lawyer
like
taught
that.
me. Is he said when you become a lawyer, and you have to uh, have audience for the courts. The biggest thing that you have to be able to do is you have to tell a story. So, say if you're a lawyer and you're defending a rapist, it doesn't matter. That lawyer doesn't care whether they believe that that person's true or not, or whether they've committed it or not. Their job is to manipulate the jury to make them think that they're right and that they get off free. Because if they get off free, then they get more money. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
a play.
it's for me, law is knowing the system, but it's something that I would never ever get into on uh,
Right.
that sort of level. Academically, yeah, it's great to have a law degree. It's great, but then
Right.
it's a farce. It's such a farce.
Yeah, within a farcical system. I mean,
Yeah.
look at wars like that. A lot of us are questioning narratives about why we're doing what we're doing right now over in Iran. You know,
Mhm.
it's the first world is getting involved again. The West is
Every single
supposedly
war that's
starting
gone
World War
on,
III, apparently.
it's all about oil. It's all
Yeah,
about
yeah. I
oil
mean, I wouldn't
and
doubt that
money.
at all. But also, you know, this may have nothing to do with it, but on the topics that you and I talk about a lot, it's pretty fascinating that in Iran is I'll butcher it. It's like the Busain or Bustan temple or whatever that is
Right.
basically the Rosetta Stone for understanding Sumerian.
Yeah.
And it was carved by King Darius. So we're talking about literal historical Indo-Europeans, Aryans
Yeah.
doing this. And that right there is pretty fascinating. Okay, we have an Indo-European carving something that in modern times was the only way we could understand
Yeah. Yeah.
oldest language ever written, supposedly by not Indo-Europeans by any means.
Mhm.
It's just a very interesting
It
thing that
becomes
we're
hidden
there
knowledge
just
then, doesn't it? Demolishing
right.
the last aspects of any knowledge that could be discovered. Um, and this is why a lot of those places get bombed. I
That's what I
believe.
was getting at.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
I
mean, if
believe
that
that.
gets destroyed, just like in Iraq, when the American
Yeah,
soldiers were in charge of the Baghdad Historical Museum, and it just got completely
yeah.
raided and things were stolen,
But
I
it
can
also
see
goes
these
back to the
massive
time when
monuments
they
getting
were
destroyed.
burning all of the books. Do you remember? They
Yeah.
did
Oh, yeah.
burning of the books. And yeah, it's all just to, it's like you said before, it's just to make us forget who we are, so that we end up being slaves to a system. And yeah, that
Absolutely.
is quite sad. It is quite sad. I would never, but I would love to go out to those places and find that hidden knowledge and research it for myself. As a historian, I find all of that
Right.
fascinating.
How much of the ancient world has already been destroyed over the past
Yeah.
100 years,
Or
200 years,
manipulated. When you
or
look at
manipulated?
Sitchin, I don't, the
Oh,
thing is with Sitchin,
I'm
cute
gonna do
man.
a whole listen up. I'm doing a whole episode about Zachariah Sitchin pretty soon, and I'm gonna be nice because Sitchin seemed like a genuinely nice
But
human
this is
being.
what I'm saying, right? I've got his books. I haven't read any of
Me
them.
too.
It's oh, I've got his all of them, but I just won't read them because I think it's a farce. But
You're just gonna
now,
shake your head the whole time.
yeah, he's like, oh yeah. Um, the empathy in me is, what if he actually thought that he was right because of the information that he got, and what if he was
Right.
manipulated in thinking that that was the correct translations?
Right.
It
I've
could
heard
be
that he
that
was
way round.
I don't think he was like a Freemason or anything, but I'm pretty sure he was connected to some pretty interesting groups of
Yeah.
people, you
And they
know?
could have
So,
manipulated him. I mean, his whole translations for certain things, I don't know exactly what they are, but in academics, he is poo-pooed. He's not
yeah,
considered a scholar. He's not considered a credible source. But the amount of people that I know what I'm talking about, I'm like, well, where's your citations? Where did you get that information? Zachariah Sitchin.
right.
Oh God, okay. I know who you are then.
That's the real. Yeah, he was so off base that academia never even bothered to debate him. And I know conspiracy theorists will say, "Oh, they were silent about it. That they couldn't
Yeah,
debate him."
that's the thing, isn't
No,
it? The conspiracy
academics will
theories
not
is,
debate someone that they have no stake in.
yeah,
They're not gonna. He was mixing Assyrian and Sumerian together as he pleased. He
right.
didn't understand grammar whatsoever
Yeah.
for those languages. And I'm not saying I do. This is what I've read from professional linguists that I don't know. I'll say this. I don't think the area of linguistics in anthropology is necessarily like a super controlled mechanism in our society. I
No.
think they're much more worried about politics. They don't care about people like us who will actually find the answers because for every one of us, there's a million people quoting Sitchin and
Yeah.
either making tons of money or changing their own worldviews based
Yeah.
on what
And
they're
the thing
hearing.
is, tell a lie enough times and it becomes the truth, though. That's the biggest worry, the ignorance of it all. Is that people are
Yeah.
so easily manipulated that, yeah, they're manipulated, they're indoctrinated, and they're gullible. Honestly, a lot of people are gullible. And if you continue, and then you pass that on down to your children and they pass that on down to their children, imagine what happens in 200 years' time, where you've just basically got all of these people that are coming out with this absolute BS because
Yeah.
of what
Talk
great
about a
great
game of
granny told
telephone.
us about Sitchin, and do you know what I mean?
Oh my
And
God,
yeah,
that's
it's
gonna
like the whole
happen.
ancient alien things where we lost so much time of our lives believing all
Yeah.
of that. And yeah, it's a worry. To me, it's a worry. And this is why I feel, and Dad, like, in the next couple of days, I've got to give all of my books out. I've got 4 different titles, and I've got to give 6 of those out to the British Library, the Bodleian libraries
Nice.
in Edinburgh, and they preserve them forever. So for
That's
me
awesome.
and Dad, I think somebody said, "What do you want for your future? What's going to be of the Dragon Court? What's this? What's that?" And I said, "Do you know what? All I want is for my books to surpass me, and for my books to be down in history, and for my great great grandchildren to read them, and for me and my dad." I think that's the most important thing. It's not being rich. It's not being famous. It's being able to spread our word and tell our truth, and for
Mhm.
that to go down in history. And the minute that those books go to those libraries, yay, by Joe, I've done it.
Talk about talk about keeping a legacy alive. I mean, that's the
Yeah,
perfect way to do it, you know? And I
yeah,
really commend you for the books you've put out. I read Inbred Britain. I'm finally done with it, and it's
yeah. See,
fascinating. And the thing is I will say
how long did it
directly
take
to
you to
my
read
audience,
that?
you and me didn't really go into it here, but I go into it in my intro about our interview,
Okay.
a little bit more about your dad and his work as well. And this book, Inbred Britain, is insanely impressive. It's it's basically a way upgraded version of the Dragon Legacy, which of
Yeah,
course you've re-released now and made upgrades to that as well, where your
Yeah.
father didn't
Didn't really
necessarily
make
include a lot of
upgrades to it. I
citations.
just sorted out any spelling mistakes.
Okay.
I didn't add my own word to it. For me, we've got the Dragon Legacy, then we've got the Dragon Seed, and then my book. A lot of people, even I found it very difficult to eat. I couldn't digest the Dragon Legacy. I couldn't digest the Dragon Seed. So for
Very
me to come
detailed.
out with Inbred Britain, it was years and years of research. Yeah, and I put all of this research up. A lot of it is other people's essays, and I've cited them, and I've acknowledged them. I think my cousin Karen in Australia did some on quizzical
I don't know.
on the serpent seed and the
Yeah.
serpents of different areas. I also thought it was really important to put Baphomet in there, and how Baphomet was brought in by is it Gerald Gardner and
Yeah.
Alistair Crowley. They penned in that. Baphomet was never in the Bible. It was actually an earlier god of Pan. So there
Hmm.
was the goats were gods, and they were gods of fertility. So for me, I wanted to speak about all of those um, instances, and the spiritualism and the witchcraft, and how we are the way that we are, and then the different traits like autism, and how we, because of the inbreeding and Neanderthals, and how it's all kind of just merged into why we are like this now. For me, it was the third book. It was the book that kind of cemented the other two books, that brought those two books from being elitist into a more grounded text that gives the reader confidence to say, okay, well, maybe I'm of this bloodline. Maybe
Hmm.
all of these quirks about me, that's why I am like this. So to people that have, say, orphans or don't have any family, then them finding out who they are, that can go from somebody that's not grounded, that is kind of questioning about themselves, to going, right, okay, I now know who I am. I
Right.
don't need to find out, mum or long lost mum or long lost dad, or
Right.
this is why I am
What
the
my
way I
family
am.
story was, yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that you hit it right on the head there, that's mainly what I see as, what whoever they is want us to forget. They
Mm.
want us ungrounded, which means vulnerable. It
Yeah.
basically means there for the plucking. And
And
I see a
working on
lot of
our
that.
emotions only, if you think about it like that. And then when you're working on your emotions, you are unstable, and you become alcoholics or drug addicts, or
Mhm.
or dependent on pharmaceutical drugs, and on an
More of
endless
their products.
cycle of chaos.
Yeah, and dependency
Yeah.
on, again, the system. So I mean, I hope that your work, your dad's work, I hope this podcast, as I've always wanted it to be, is just, I want my podcast to be the guy yelling when the people are just driving by and like, hey, don't go that way. Like
Yeah.
because there's so many people waking up, and I've been quote unquote awake for a good 2 decades, and I've been dealing with these things for so long that I see people going off into so many different directions instead of just
Or being
remaining
taken
in.
advantage of, and going on
Absolutely.
spending money online to healers doing readings
Oh
and
my.
stuff when they don't need it. And it's like, I think the main basis of it is that when you know that you are of the Davidic bloodline, then I don't know if you've ever done Law of Attraction, or if you've read the book of Thomas, but it's like you said, God is not necessarily on the outside, it's on the inside. You have God within, and you are the creator of your own destiny. Like, my whole life, I've gone through some really bad stuff, but I've managed to bring it back through having that self belief in myself. I think the
Mhm.
other day I'm building this gazebo, and I'm saying, if God loves me, He's going. I'm 4'10", and this gazebo is like 8 foot, and I've got no ladder. And if God loves me, He's going to get me up there, and I'm going to be able to do it. And I did it. I did it.
All
It's just
right.
little things like that I say out loud, that I go, God loves me, God loves me, and it's not necessarily God. It's
That's
me.
not
I love
Yahweh
myself. I've
necessarily.
got that thing in me that I can do this. I can really do this, you know. And
Hmm.
yeah, you are God. God is within. You are the creator of your own path, your own destiny. And I think
I
that
think
once
that's
you
the
learn
point.
that's wonderful. And then you're not dependent on the church. You're not dependent on God. God. You're
Right.
depending on yourself
And
only.
at that moment, your history can be its own thing. It doesn't have to be wrapped up in whatever you think is going on in consciousness or reality, because it seems
Mhm.
like they're tied inextricably together in history. And I always find that very convenient because fear of death is so universal. Whether it's the
Yeah.
most confident person in the world saying, "Oh, I could die tomorrow and I know everything's good," or it's someone who's just outwardly afraid. It's in every single one of us. So I think it's probably the easiest thing to capture and manipulate us over. And
Yeah.
so when our history, where we come from, where all our families come from, are tied up in these notions of what's going to happen when we die,
Yeah.
that's really not a healthy way to interact with either one of those topics, wouldn't you say?
It's difficult though, isn't it? Because I can agree with that in a way. Like,
Hmm.
what would happen to my children? Because I've got a child that is dependent on me.
Of
Um,
course.
you know,
I just meant like
so
afterlife wise, like
yeah, I know, but
where's the me, where's the ego going after this instead of focusing on this, where am I
yeah,
going? It
I,
skews the
I
story.
just hope that I have a legacy that is big enough to be able to finance my children so that they have an easier life. You
I
know,
agree.
that's all I could hope for, really. But yeah,
Mhm.
I'm probably just going into an abyss of nothingness.
Maybe.
Might be,
Or maybe you'll be traveling the stars with your spirit guides. You don't know,
yeah, yeah,
Or
or a
Bashar will be
dragon
there.
somewhere. Yeah.
Jesus. Well, all right. Listen, I'm gonna end this here. I think we had a great talk here. Thank you so much again for joining me. I know you don't do podcasts often, and I really appreciate you coming on mine. Before I let you go, I do have one more question, then we're gonna promote the shit out of your work.
Okay.
All right, final question. Are we related to the Anunnaki and are they human?
What are the Anunnaki? Who are they?
Hell yeah. What are they?
Go and research it. Find out for
Go and
yourself.
research it. All right, fair enough. So, where can everyone find your work?
You can go to theroyaldragoncourt.com. I'm just going to show you quickly. We've got
Yes,
the latest version of the Dragon Legacy.
beautiful. Looks
I love it.
fantastic.
I love it. It is such a stunning book. We've got nice blurb of dad, picture of father on the back, a nice review from someone in there. And then we've also got the Royal Dragon Court, Inbred Britain
Excellent.
by
Yep,
Abbe De
I've got
Vere.
that on my shelf as
You can
well.
go onto the website, theroyaldragoncourt.com, and you can grab one at a bit of a cheaper price on a link that takes you to Ingram Spark, or you can go to Amazon. Honestly, they are worldwide. They're going to be in all libraries soon. They're at Hatchards, Waterstones, Barnes and Noble. But yeah, you can grab yourself a copy off Amazon or join us on YouTube or Facebook.
Absolutely. And you are not stopping anytime soon. You have more books coming out. You've been backloading all this information and now it's coming out for everyone to
Yeah, I've
check out.
started
And I
up Dragon Publishing, so I've got other friends who are into history who are
Mhm.
also going to be diving off down other routes of history as well. So it's not just watch out for me, it's watch out for my team members, Ian Conrad and Thomas Kelly as well, who are a force
Absolutely.
to be reckoned with by the time we get their books published.
Yes, and I'm very much hoping to have those fellas on this show if they're willing to sometime, because I definitely want to talk to a living, walking encyclopedia of history for
Oh,
sure.
they're both exactly the same. Not one of them is better than the other. Honestly,
That's great.
I'm sat there sometimes with Thomas. I can be sat there for 3 hours just being taught things.
Well, I appreciate you, Abby, very much. I'm glad that we're friends. I'm glad I get to throw random ideas at you, and sometimes you shoot me down and that's rubbish, or you lead me in a better direction on these topics. And I, again, really appreciate the books that you've put out. These are excellent resources for everybody interested in history, everybody who's on the fence of what to believe about all these ancient myths that we find ourselves re-examining in the alternative world constantly. Seriously, check out Inbred Britain, check out The Dragon Legacy. It's and more to come. And I believe A Thousand Fate. What's the name of that one?
A
The
Story of a
Mask.
Thousand Faces and Hidden Lies of
Right.
a Thousand Faces. Hidden Lies is coming out in June or July. I honestly, I've got so many different books coming out that I'm finding it difficult to keep up with myself. So
Absolutely.
I'll find the end soon. By the end of the year, they'll all be ready.
Fair enough. Well, you got enough on your plate with the farm as well and everything like that. So,
Yeah.
um, all right. Well, thank you again, and we'll talk soon, everybody. I'm back. I guess it's here. It's happening. So I'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.